Welcome to Gaia's Love, a podcast to guide you home into your human journey here on Earth. My name is Vivian Gerard, and it is my delight to co-create with Gaia and share our messages from Source in this now moment. Here we go. Episode 497. It is Friday here in Cincinnati. It's beautiful, sunshiny, a little chilly, and all of the trees are in their glory. It is one of the prettiest times to live in the Midwest of the United States. And if you are following me on Instagram, you are seeing tree after tree appear in my stories as I share the beauty. It really is just such an extraordinary time to be alive, to be a human on our planet. And extraordinary times can often feel intense. They can feel challenging and overwhelming. But they are the times we look back on down the road as character building, strengthening, a time when our resilience formed, when our hearts stretched and expanded, when magic was happening. Sometimes it's easier to see it later when we look back. So here I am in the current moment, naming it, claiming it, bringing it forward in your awareness, so that as we navigate this time, there's a little voice in your head or a little reminder that nudges you to perhaps see it from a different perspective, to be in the intensity, and also a part of you be outside of the intensity looking at it and going, oh my gosh, we will remember this. We will look back on this in awe and wonder. And also right now it looks like chaos. So this is the reminder. This is the little voice that can be pulled out in your head when necessary and offer you a different lens, a different way to look at how your life is going. The title for today is Putting the Pieces in Place. And there's lots of reasons for it. The first probably would be the astrology. So we'll start there and then we'll see where our conversation takes us. We have several combinations of planets that are happening right now that are worth your time to explore by looking at what astrologers are posting. One of them is Mars and Cancer, and the two of those energies, when they combine in the way that they are right now, feels like more conflict, like two heads butting energetically. The action, fierce, intensity, movement of Mars with the stillness, quiet, internal, reflective energy of Cancer. Butting heads pushing against each other. When those two come together, there's often more conflict, more crackling of the energy between people, within communities, perhaps within parties politically, within the government structure. Right now it seems to be the food, the way that our food is being processed with conflict because the consumers are not happy. There are tensions that are heightened or exemplified when those two energies come together. At the same time, we have Pluto in its last few weeks with Capricorn. Less than 4 weeks. We are almost through a cycle that we will never see again in our lifetimes. The next time that Pluto enters Capricorn will be in 245 years, a long time from now. I don't believe we'll be alive. I mean, there is this whole theory about reverse aging that I buy into and our lifespans being extended, but also, I don't know, that's a long stretch to assume that we will be here for the next round. But we're in the final gifts, the final magic of what we have been working through with Pluto and Capricorn since 2008. This is such a big completion integration, alignment, embodiment. There is so much being coded and anchored into our frequency if we are aware of it. If we're not aware of it, it feels like pressure, and why is the same thing coming up again? Haven't I looked at this already? Why is this person from the past suddenly reaching out to me when I thought we were over with this energy? If we're not actively contemplating, reflecting, when big cycles come to a completion, it can take us off guard. It can surprise us when the thing is here again and we don't understand why. If we're paying attention, which is why this podcast is broadcasting this message, if we are bringing our awareness to the things in our lives that perhaps are unusual or we haven't seen in a while, or the thoughts or the memories that are coming back that just haven't been present in a little while, why now? When we contemplate, when we reflect on what's actually happening in our bodies, our minds, our emotions, our realities, we see the patterns. We can identify the cycles, and that awareness that it's a pattern often allows us to complete the pattern. The awareness of the behavior, the way that we are in relationships or in our work or just in life in general, when we see the pattern and we have awareness, we can then shift the behavior or shift the energy exchange to one that now feels more in alignment. So for example, I think of who I was in 2008. I was a young mother. I was a wife who was in the process of separating and going through a divorce. I was just going back to being a full-time employee after being a stay-at-home mother. I was learning, well, I wasn't quite learning yet. I'd moved out of my home at the end of 2008. I moved out of my home with my husband, and I moved into my home with my parents, their home. So I regressed back to all the things that had come up when I was in a childhood with my parents living. But this time I had my children with me, and we had so much coming up for awareness, for clearing. All of that was happening in 2008. And then a few years later, I discovered energy reading. I ended up leaving the corporate job and becoming a full-time entrepreneur working with energy. I met my new next husband. We got married, new house. Like, so much was shifting and changing. The pattern that I have become aware of as I reflect on the cycle from 2008 till now, the pattern, the cycle for me at this moment is there's another transformation beginning. There's another new beginning that is birthing through me. And I've done it so many times before. I have, like Esther Hicks has a thing that she says, if you come to my conference or my workshop and you go home and your house has burned down, you're actually going to have the greatest gift, the greatest transformation of everybody that was in this workshop. Because when everything is destroyed, when everything is reduced to its core simplicity, to the basic important components of your life, you change. You evolve so rapidly. And then you rebirth yourself. You transform into the next version of yourself. So it's like the process of transformation is collapsed, condensed, because it's so intense, it's so dramatic. I don't wish on anyone that their house burns down. I certainly don't wish it on myself. But the metaphor, I think, is really helpful. For me, I have reduced myself down to my core knowing of who I am, redefined that, and then recreated, rebirthed, re-expressed the next version of me that wanted to come through. Just recently, my children have graduated, finished college. One's graduated, one's almost about to, and they're beginning their lives. They're in their lives. My role as mother is shifting. It's being redefined. And for so much of my lifetime as an adult, my identity has been around being a mother. In 2008, when I was going through a divorce, that whole identity of mother, it was like trying to understand it from a different perspective. Stayed home full-time mom, which was the most incredible gift, to working mother, to then single working mother, to then remarried mother with stepchildren and a stepfather for my children. The identification of mother has been through so much within me. And now here we are. There's a new cycle. Who am I in this new version of mother? Who am I in this new version of wife, with my husband getting near retirement, with no one in the home all the time with us? Like, it's just the two of us. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. And our pets. We have our pets. Who am I as the business owner, the entrepreneur, who has learned so much since 2008? I mean, so much. And also, I feel like I'm on the precipice. There's so much more to learn. And the new people entering my life who have the skills, the vision, the gifts, the connection, they're going to help walk me into that next version of who I am here to be as a CEO, as a business owner, as the creator, the visionary who is bringing forward something that has never existed before. It's so incredible. And it's all happening simultaneously. This is really the point of today's podcast title. There are so many different pieces being moved on the chessboard, on the puzzle board, whatever image you want to use. There are so many different pieces moving around. And like I described in last week's podcast with rush week vibes, you know, when you're in that rush experience. Sorry, there's cat hair all over my nose from Jade's little visit a minute ago. My nose. Rush week vibes, when you're in a sorority or fraternity application process, you're sampling, you're trying out all of the different houses. And so you're going from place to place and experiencing a little bit of each one. And they're interviewing you and you're interviewing them. And at the end of that rush week, there's a matching where you attempt to synchronize. If you accept, then you join, right? You pledge, I think is what it's called. And then you join the sorority or fraternity. And that sets you on the next course, the next community that you'll be building as you go through college. Really for the rest of your life, because people identify with their sorority or fraternity for always. For us right now, there are all of these potential timelines, realities, creations, expressions that can be birthed or moved through us. There's this one version, for example, I'll use myself as an example. If you're watching this on video, you see this version of Vivian. Right now I have pretty short hair, I'm wearing a blue shirt, a little bit of makeup, I'm kind of running a fever because I'm getting a cold. Like, there's this version of me who's sitting in this timeline right now, who believes that the next step is going to be this path, whatever it is that I'm focusing on in this moment. Simultaneously, there are next to me, behind me, above me, in front of me, all around me, 100, 1,000, 1 million other potential realities of who I could be next. There's the version of me who decides she's done being an entrepreneur and she's just going to retire comfortably with her husband and do puzzles and enjoy life in a very relaxed way. There's the version of me who decides with my husband we need to buy a house at the beach, and we go off to a beach and disappear for a while. There's the version of me who is the grandmother to the grandchildren and very hands-on and active and always engaged. There's the version of me who becomes the CEO, boss of a multi-million-dollar company and builds an empire. There's a version of me that combines bits and pieces of all of that. This me exists right now in this moment, in this one little bite-sized video that I transmit also in audio form out into technology, and you synchronize up and receive it. And so we have this moment where you see me and I meet you in exactly who you are in this moment that you hear these words. Something in our exchange, our transmission, activates something in you. Me sitting here saying all this out loud is activating something in me. And when we synchronize and our energies meet in this moment of technology, this moment of soul to soul through technology, which, by the way, is Pluto and Aquarius, all about how we connect through technology. Those of you who are afraid of AI, it's just Pluto and Aquarius in a form. It's going to be okay. We're all going to be okay. There's this synchronizing of me and you, soul to soul. The activation that's happening in me as I record this transmission to you activates something in you as you receive it. I change now in this moment of the recording, and it activates one of those timelines in a more specific way because my choice to be here shifts the frequency, shifts the timeline. Your choice to sit, hear it, see it, receive it, shifts something in you because the energy transmissions match up. And now your timeline somehow is a little different because of this transmission. Mind-boggling. Mind-blowing. All the things. All the things. And isn't it incredible? Isn't it incredible that we live in a world right now that allows us the ability to connect through technology? Me sitting here in my home in Cincinnati on a Friday with my light on and my camera, my cat wandering around, and you, wherever you are in the moment you choose to listen to this. We meet in a new moment in the virtual space of creation, and something happens. And we both are different. And timelines shift. I think that's incredible. I think that is absolutely the most incredible experience. And it has not always been possible on this planet, which is probably why I'm so in awe of it. I'm so excited about it. And I can only imagine 20 or 30 years from now, when we're in Pluto and Pisces, what kind of experience we will have then. How technology will have shortened the time frame, the more directly synchronized and connected soul to soul because it's getting more efficient. I don't even know what we don't know yet. 20 years ago, if you had said to me, you're going to make a podcast, like right before Pluto went into Capricorn, if we think about that, when I was a mother with a new baby and my hands full, so much going on in my life. If you had told me then that in 2024 I would be sitting, creating a podcast, sending it out and synchronizing up with other souls, I would have looked at you like you were crazy. I would have said, I don't even know what you mean by soul. I don't really explore that idea. And synchronizing energies? What do you mean? Podcasts? Can you imagine? 20 years ago, we didn't talk about podcasts. I think we were still using CDs and cassette tapes. I mean, I'm really not kidding. I think that was what we were doing. I know. I remember buying CDs to play in the car with my children when they were little. There was no Spotify account for me to turn on. Oh, it's so funny. I used to laugh when old people would do this, when they would, I remember in my old day, this is what it was. And now I'm one of those people who has such a wide range of human experience that I can say, I remember before we had the technology, the advancements, the gifts that we have now. I remember the limitations of the human experience back then. It was harder. It took longer. There was not the speed and the efficiency that we have now. That's only going to improve. So back to the title, putting the pieces in place. We are really in a moment of precision, accuracy, heightened awareness, if we're paying attention, that allows us to see exactly what reality we are I can't say that. We can see with as much as we are able to right now, with all the limitations in place right now. We are able to see or sense the reality that we are going to be forming for ourselves next, individually and collectively, if we're watching, if we're paying attention. And the pieces that most serve us to build the reality that we most desire are presenting themselves for us right now. Let me say that again. The pieces that most serve us to construct the reality that we most desire are presenting themselves to us now. The people, the processes, the gifts, the tools, the spaciousness, the activation, the courage, the strength, the focus, the commitment, the communities, everything that we need. It's forming, it's arriving, it's showing itself to us. I'm trying to think of a good example of this. It's like this, maybe this is a good example. When, let's say you want to build your dream home, and you find land, you know this land is the perfect land, and it's exactly the location you want it to be in. It has the view, it has the trees, it has the space, everything. It's in exactly the location you want. But you can't build the house by yourself. So you start calling a meeting for all of the people who will be part of that collaboration with you to show up, so that you can brainstorm the best way to build that house on that land. Because if you don't have all the right people in there at the right time, you could place the house in a direction where it doesn't actually get as much sunlight as you would want in all of the rooms. And so for the rest of the time you live in that house, you're going to wish that you had known that if you turned it just 10 degrees this way, the light in the house would have been completely different. An example from our house here with our pool. We just did what the pool guide told us to do, but if someone had come in like an architect or a landscape designer or the guys who pour the concrete, and they had said, if you angled the pool just a little bit more this way, if you move your pool equipment out over here and down, you'll have more space for grass, you'll have more space for a concrete pad to put a table. If we turn it this direction, your retaining wall won't need to be as large. You can move this tree and not have to cut this tree down. All of the people involved would have created a different landing of the pool itself, because it would have been holistic. It would have been all of us as visionaries coming together and describing and talking through, what do we actually want that pool area to be? Are we going to have lots of people, a few people, children, adults? Do we want, the pool guy did say, do you want a big front top step so that the children who are small can play on that safely? Do you want to have a bench to sit on with some jets in case you want to turn up the hot water? Within the pool, we got great service. Within the context of how the pool placed itself in our backyard, we didn't do that well. We didn't have a vision. We didn't have the people there to support the conversation, to brainstorm it before we actually started digging up the dirt. That's the example or the illustration that might be helpful right now. If you're wanting to build your dream reality, we'll use the home again, your dream home, why not, to make it optimal, to make it exactly the best expression of that dream, to think through all of the details of the dream, why not bring in the architect, the designer, the landscaper, the engineer, the builder? That would be a good one. Bring in the builder. Bring in all the people who are going to be using the home on a regular basis. So if you know that your parents will be living there with you when they're older, or Your children are going, no, your children don't really want to have an input on a house usually. All the people who are going to be in that dream world with you. Bring in the resources, bring in the users, bring in, you know what I mean by users, not users like a bad user like the participants. And have a conversation. Draw it up, visualize it, sketch it out, talk through, brainstorm. Because what's going to happen as that process unfolds is the dream gets refined, it gets improved, it gets context and depth and form and detail, and it becomes more real. It takes on an energy of its own. It generates more power because so much time and focus is being put on it. It comes to life. That's what's potential for us right now. That wasn't quite good English. That's what's possible for us right now. That's the field of potentiality that we are playing in right now. We're always playing in that, but it's heightened at this time. We have a big collective shift happening around our world as Pluto moves from Capricorn into Aquarius over the next few weeks. We're in the final pieces of gathering all that we've learned and understood and known since 2008. We'll just look at that one cycle. From 2008 until now, we're embodying all of that. So that as we step into Pluto in Aquarius, we're not taking a lot of baggage with us. We're taking the wisdom. We're taking the clarity. We're taking the efficiency. And that propels us into Pluto and Aquarius energy with strength and groundedness and, a commitment to whatever it is we're going to build next. So this specific shift is supporting the process of forming and designing and refining this dream of whatever it is that we want to have next. Maybe it's a home for you. For me, right now, it's so much about my business. And so the pieces are coming and being put in place if we're paying attention, if we're open to that, if we trust the ways that the people and the resources are showing up. It's a lot. It's a lot. And it can be really exhausting. And sometimes when we have a really big activation or download, that happened for me twice this week, huge activation download, 2 times. And each time it was right before going to bed. And I couldn't sleep the whole night. I was wired. There was so much energy moving through my body. The ahas, the ideas were like, I just couldn't. I couldn't get my body to relax enough to sleep. That's the fire, the passion, the activation of Mars and Cancer. It's like, let's just combust the energy and let it light you up, fire you up from the inside. Well, sometimes that's really exhausting for our bodies. And what happens then, I'm so glad I remembered this because I definitely want to bring it forward. What happens when we are activated, when there's a big shift, when we can feel that our dreams are being refined, the timelines are being played with and moved in our own understanding of them, our physical bodies can be totally depleted. This is when, if we're not sleeping, we're overexcited by everything. We don't drink enough water. We're not nourishing our bodies enough. Maybe we're not outside in the sunshine or the fresh air enough. We catch a cold. Catch a cold just means your body's moving the energy that has been stagnant inside of you. It's now ready to be released. There's a physical manifestation in your body of the energy that's been moving inside of you. And if we resist that, we get more sick. So if you're starting to get sick, this is like me, the guidance is to slow down, to be still. So yesterday, that was my focus. It was, we're not going to do all day. We're going to reflect on what's coming up, understand why it's coming up, get clear on the misalignment and the realignment that needs to happen, so that when we make the choice of what's next, or where do we place that piece that we can feel is ready to be placed, it comes from such a centered space inside. It's not rash or hasty or rushed, impulsive, which is very easy to have happen right now. With all of the energy moving, we have a new moon in Scorpio next week also. Like, there's so many layers right now, so many pieces moving in astrology. There's a great video, Pam Gregory has a great new moon in Scorpio reading, and she just describes all the things that are happening right now. It'll blow your mind. You'll just listen to it like, what? No wonder my body is so tired. When there's a lot moving, finding centeredness within ourselves, being still, being sure, grounding and rooting in with the earth, breathing, exhaling, all of that slows down the current that could pick us up and just carry us into the next thing without conscious thought or conscious choice. And right now it feels like deliberate, aware, conscious choice is so important. If you imagine like a chess game, if you want to use that as your putting the pieces in place image, if you imagine the chess game, the person who is trying to look at all of the pieces on the board to decide where to make their move, they're not just randomly moving things around and impulsively saying this or that. They're analyzing the entire board and then making a deliberate choice and moving the piece and placing it with great awareness, with confidence. And that's really what I encourage for all of us. It's okay to say, I need to sit back and think about this for a moment, feel into this. I think that you're bringing this to the table, and this partner is going to bring this to the table, and all of these things feel good, but let me take a pause and really, in my own knowing, feel my timing, my process, my choice. Because when we make a decision from that place inside of ourselves that is so sure, it's laser focused. It's momentum so fast, so quickly, so beautifully forward, because it's in alignment with the timeline that we are choosing to activate. It would be like me sitting here right now. So, I mean, a great example is my short hair. I didn't have plans to cut it short, but I went into the hairdresser that day and I knew something in me is shifting, it's different. I want to physically see that shift every time I look in the mirror, every time, I'm getting ready and focused on myself. Like I want to feel different. And for me, that was an immediate way. I just cut it all off, and now I feel like I'm a new version of myself. For some people, it's changing your clothes. You might do a whole wardrobe switch at this time. Maybe it's your body. This is probably going to be a big one for a lot of us. What is the body we actually desire? What body feels light? Pluto in Aquarius is going to be fast, quick moving from a centered space of knowing who we are inside. That flexibility and strength and resilience, our physical bodies will want to be able to move nimbly, quickly in that energy. It's a lot. And it's your reality that you're creating. What do you want it to look like, to feel like? How do you want to feel in your reality? Do you want to be the creator of it, the one in charge of it, the one designing it? Or do you want to show up and someone's created it all for you and you're the guest in the reality because it's actually the general construct that everybody is in? I really like designing my reality. I like partnering and co-creating with people who want to move fast and shift things and bring their magic, help me expand, and then I help them expand. Like, I love that. Let's go. And when it comes from pure alignment and clarity and focus within myself, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's fun. It's exciting. So that is where I am. I am about to revamp my entire website and restructure the offerings that I have, the pricings that I deliver them at, the ways that you can play. Some are lowering. My new moon events are going to go down to $44 a person because I want easy entry. Come in, set intentions together. Let's move fast. Let's be clear. So you join a Zoom circle, you put your intentions in the comments, we all activate them together. I'll do a few hot seat coachings, readings. We all leave that time together like, wow, so on fire, so on purpose. And 44 is an easy entry into that. So that begins next week with the new moon in Scorpio. And the circle will be on Wednesday, I believe, 5 p.m. Eastern. So I'm going to start talking about that. If you're not getting my newsletter, now would be a great time to sign up because that will be announced through my newsletter with links and easy access to all of it. My session prices are going up to $444 for an hour because it's intended to be an activation. An activation. You are activated as you sit in that space with me, knowing what you've invested. And we move. We move like fast. Pluto and Aquarius energy is, the words I heard were, it's my jam. Pluto and Aquarius definitely feels like my jam. Transformation in the sign of Aquarius. I'm an Aquarius sun and moon, and I'm just lit up about what's happening next. Knowing it's going to be bumpy, there's going to be contractions and expansions. There are things for me to dismantle, just like everybody else who has any Aquarius in their chart or who's in the collective energy field. We all are going to do our work, just like we did with Pluto and Capricorn. But this just feels a little more familiar to me. I feel like I'll be able to move in greater alignment than I have been in Pluto and Capricorn. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And then I have my retreat coming up in 1 month, and it's exciting. It is very exciting. We're going to be spending 3 days together at the beach as Pluto transitions into Aquarius, doing dream building. Just like I was describing with building your dream home, we are mapping out what is next in our reality, and there's so much for us to look at. So if you have been on the fence, you're not sure if you should do it, now's the time to claim your seat and let the activations begin. Because the moment you say yes, you're already in the energy of what I'm holding. And it's like the lazy river, except the lazy river is taking you to like the biggest party, the biggest creative dance in the water, and you're going to start and then you're going to be like whoosh. Well, that wasn't a good example, but I think you understand what I mean. And I'm putting in place for the first time a process for my business to have a core offer. I think I know the name, I'm not sure yet, so I won't say it out loud, but I'm going to start a core offer that I do multiple times every year, an intensive 5-week experience, and I'll keep refining it and making it stronger and clearer and more potent and more engaging. And yeah, so there's some work to do to put all of that together. Lots of structure being established, and I think that's what you will find in your reality also. If you are looking at it with these eyes, with this lens, you'll see how the pieces that you are placing with conscious choice are forming a foundation for a structure that you will be playing in for the next 20 years, at least the next 10, and then I don't even know what will happen as we move with Pluto through Aquarius. Things may be constructed and reconstructed multiple times. But I do get the sense that what we are forming right now, what we are beginning to put context around, is going to carry us for quite a while. And so it's important that we place the pieces consciously, that we're deliberate and aware and trusting our intuition, our bodies, the timing. Also knowing you really can't screw it up. That's one of my favorite Esther sayings also. All the versions of me that exist as I sit here in this moment of this timeline, all the versions of me are going to still get me to the end result where I return to source. And so the only difference of the timeline I choose is how I get there. It's not that I won't get there or that I'll get it wrong because I won't get there. It's just all a different way of playing to get there. And for me, I love choosing the timeline with the biggest growth, the biggest evolution, the biggest expansion, the most collaboration, the strength and the love of those I love around me. Like the timeline that I choose is very deliberate and conscious. And so maybe this transmission from me to you will inspire you to really look at that in your own reality too. New Moon in Scorpio next week. I just uploaded the meditation. The title for it is Nothing is Lost. I will probably use that same title next week for episode 498 of this podcast. We are so close to 500. I just can't even believe it. But that New Moon in Scorpio meditation is available on Insight Timer. So if you decide that you want some support, that would be a great place to begin. And then the circle will be next week on Wednesday. So if you want to try this new way of doing it with me, next week is a great time to step in. Okay? Have a beautiful weekend, everybody. So much love. Thank you for tuning into this vibration of pure love. Let's take this message of Gaia's love out into all of our relationships and communities today. So much love from my heart to yours.